how can you use some of these tools to help you when you're moving through crisis or when there's uncertainty or you're feeling disconnected? Because you're never disconnected. It's an illusion. You're always connected. You just have either forgotten about it or have pushed it away or it feels unsafe. And so how can you make that more safe? Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Hello, beautiful human. Today's podcast is very, very personal one. I usually batch record my podcasts, and it just so happened that I was supposed to be recording another batch of podcasts last week before I went on a speaking engagement trip to another city. And someone in my family encountered a medical emergency. So in that medical emergency, I had to cancel everything and be present for that situation. And in that real time experience, I noticed that I weathered the storm a little bit differently than the people around me. And I've also been, having the privilege of being with people who are moving through some really tough times lately. And I noticed how hard it seems like for them as they're going through some of these really tough challenges. And I realized that I use a number of spiritual tools when I'm going through some challenging times, and it doesn't feel so dire. It doesn't feel overwhelming. Someone messaged me and said, "You must feel so overwhelmed." I'm like, not at all, actually. I don't feel like that at all. I felt very calm. I felt very grounded and centered. I always knew what our next steps were. I was prepared, even though it was completely unexpected. And so I realized I really needed to talk about this. And Spirit said, this is the topic of your next podcast. And so if you are listening to this, in the timing in which it's being released, I literally am recording this 3 days before. So it was just sending loving thanks and gratitude to my team who is making this happen. I like to make sure we're far in advance so no one's scrambling to try to get things uploaded and notes out to all of you. But this one dropped in so purposefully. So today we're going to be talking about 6 spiritual tools I use to get me through a family emergency. Now, the emergency itself is not mine to share, so I'll share kind of things around it, but not the details of it because, again, it's not mine. So in what was happening, I had a busy week the last week. I was supposed to be at a mastermind with my coach. I had 7 client sessions, various offerings, and then I had to go to Calgary, which is a city about 3 hours away from Edmonton, where I'm located, for a speaking engagement to support a dear friend of mine in her conference. And I was so excited about that conference and being there, and also all of the wonderful humans that are in my calendar. There's ongoing healing and homework and things that they're doing as they're working with me. I was really excited to see some of their homework and hear how they've been up leveling in their life. It's really, I feel so blessed to be able to work with such amazing clients. And it was Saturday is when the first hints of things start to come up. So this is where the first spiritual tool comes up of the six that we're going to talk about. So last week I had a tarot session for a client, and I normally don't pull cards for myself, which I know you might be like, "What? You have this ability? Why don't you do it for yourself all the time?" Because I really just trust the universe, right? And moreover, I trust myself. So whatever's going to present, it's going to present. And sometimes the cards, as you're reading your own cards, it can be like, okay, what do you think this is? And then your mind starts to go a little rampant. And instead, I just like to be present in the moment, go, okay, I see where that is. And we'll just see what happens. But it gives you sometimes a little warning so that when something comes up, you can action it faster than if you were just like, oh, it's fine, it's nothing. You know, it's not nothing. So when I was pulling my tarot cards, so that's the first spiritual tool, was I used the tarot cards. Now the tarot cards are 78 cards in the deck, and they all have specific meanings. So I've been trained extensively on the tarot. I understand what the meanings are, right side up and upside down. And I just gave myself a little reading after my client session was over. And I pulled the Tower card in my family house. So the Tower card, for those of you who don't know the tarot, it looks like a building that's kind of leaning. It's on fire. Lightning is striking the building. People are jumping out of the building and they are on fire. And the Tower card signifies a sudden and unexpected change. And usually the change is sort of like an earthquake, right? You can see that there are cracks that are kind of occurring, and the cracks, if you pay attention to them, you know something's happening, right? So it's kind of like before an avalanche, right? You can see little pebbles and you're like, oh, something's happening. But if you don't pay attention, the mountain can come down on you. So it's not always like such an unexpected surprise, but most times it is. So in this case, I got the Tower card. I was like, okay, I kind of laughed. And I was like, well, what could this be? So I know my dad and my brother are currently traveling to India at the time that I pulled the cards. And I was like, maybe it's that, or my mom's kind of by herself. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, like my brother. Like, who could it be? So I'm kind of moving through everything in my mind, and like I feel nothing. I don't know. I'm not being pulled in one direction or another. So I'm like, all right. So whatever this is not presenting yet, because then I would have gotten a bit of a tinge in that direction. So I put the cards away and I said, okay, noted, right? I know. So that's the tarot cards were the first spiritual tool. Second spiritual tool is in the moment that it is occurring. So Saturday morning, there's like a hint of something, and I suggested, as the day gone on, it kind of got a little worse for this person. So I suggested we probably should go to the hospital. And at that point, the suggestion was not accepted. Now, I've learned in my family, we have a lot of stubborn people. I would include myself sometimes in that bucket, sometimes, only sometimes, in that bucket. And I know I can hear somebody going, that's me, girl. I know, I see you. That if I suggest something and they don't want to take it, then my really only uh, response is to say, okay. Because if I try to push it or I try to make them do something, it becomes a power struggle. And then things kind of go sideways there. So I just honor, right? When I say, what do you think? I think we should go to the hospital. And they go, no, I don't think so. I'm like, all right, we're just going to wait. Because I know it's going to present in the right time. When it happens, it's going to happen proper. So then Sunday morning, we should definitely go to the hospital. Okay. So as I'm taken to the hospital, I noticed myself, right? I'm like, okay, things are getting exponentially worse in the car. Deep breaths. And this is where the second spiritual tool comes in, and it's meditation. So, in driving very fast to get to a hospital that had the lowest wait time, it was not the closest hospital. And so, as we're driving, the deep breaths, the meditation, and really then also the third tool was calling in spirit. So, wrapping the car in white light, saying, please let us get there to the hospital as quickly as possible, and then calling in spirit guides, healing guides to help the person who was in the car as well, to just weather the storm, to get us there safe. So, get there. It's a bit of a wait. Even though our situation is dire, there's no beds. So, as we're waiting, I'm sending healing light and energy to this person. So, this is my third tool, is spiritual kind of spiritual healing, and my intuition calling in my spirit guides. And when we call in spirit guides, you realize that they're not alone. Actually, you're really never alone. I think it's so interesting when people complain of loneliness, or say that they're having an experience of loneliness. It means that they're disconnected from their true self and from the universe, because I truly am never alone. Like, I can feel spirit with me all the time. I feel my higher self. I feel source energy with me all the time. So, calling in those guides to help with the healing. I also was doing Reiki. So, I have my level 2 certification. I wouldn't call that a spiritual tool because it's not available to everybody. It's a healing modality, but you can lump that into the intuition piece of it too. Is that I was really using my healing as much as I could. So, trying to calm things down in the energy body, sending healing to the affected parts of the body, and so we finally get in. And in there, we get diagnosed very quickly with a very dire situation and need to get transferred to another hospital. So, in that moment, I'm then using my intuition. And same, so I'm still on 3. I'm trying to keep these all all in a line so I remember the 6 tools. So the intuition piece is like, okay, which hospital we're going to go to, how fast we're going to get there, and I heard spirit say it's going to be fast. In that moment, then I use spiritual tool number 4, which is calling in my healing group. So I messaged all the healers that I know, all of my friends, all of my colleagues, everyone who I've ever done any healing circles with. And I sent out a request to please send healing to this person. They're going to be going into surgery, and I need your support. And that was something very new for me, to call in support. And I also didn't want to sort of tell the world this was happening, honoring my person's privacy, but also that healers understand that you're not going, "What happened? What's the thing? What's going on? Can you give me all the sordid details?" They're just like, "Name, who am I healing? Perfect. Sending healing. That's it. That's your job." If you're enacted on a prayer chain, it's like you're sending prayers to the person. You're feeling the energy move through, and there's many different modalities within my healing circle of friends. And just want to send a special shout out and love to all the people who sent healing to my person. I just am so grateful for you, because it truly makes a difference. I've seen that firsthand. And how I've seen that firsthand is my son had meningitis when he was 7, and it presented as a sinus infection. We went to the doctor, to the hospital, actually emergency, because it was over a long weekend, and the doctor said he's fine, he just has a sinus infection. And I said, he does not. This is not normal. His fever has come back and gone away now for 2 weeks. The sinus infection is raging. Medicine isn't even helping to heal, and his neck, he can't, like, he's okay, he had Advil in the waiting room so he could move his neck, but he can't move his neck normally. And she's like, "You just want antibiotics. Get out of here." And I said, "I don't. I'm not a pill pusher. Like, I literally feel something is wrong with my son." And she said, "Don't make me call security on you." Literally, that's what she said. So I was so mad. I'm like, "Fine, we're going to go see our family doctor on Tuesday, and then you'll see." Right. So we really thought it was like something that required antibiotics. By Tuesday, he could not walk. She did not say anything about, like, in terms of like this could be nothing to that extent of like when to come back, or how bad it's going to get, if it gets this way or this way or this way, come back. Like, it was a skeletal crew. She was really, really stressed. And we went to see our family doctor first thing in the morning on Tuesday. She took one look at him. She's like, "He needs to go to a hospital now." And my husband said, "Can you please call ahead?" And she said, "No, he's going to be triaged properly. Just go." We waited 4 hours in the waiting room. He was literally on death's door. He was hallucinating. He was throwing up. He couldn't walk. And once we got in, we had to get an isolation bed, which, again, waiting in the waiting room for 4 hours, that's good. And right away, we got in for an MRI, and they found that he had meningitis, but they couldn't do a spinal. So we they couldn't definitively say that it was meningitis, so they just kept feeding him antibiotics, and it was really, really bad. He also started to have problems with his heart, so we ended up going into the ICUs, and he was monitored hourly for vitals. He was very, very sick, and literally on death's door. And so we sent out again, healing prayer chain. My mom had like temples in Malaysia and India praying. My best friend at the time had churches in South America praying. We literally had thousands of people praying for my son. And I remember sleeping over at the hospital with him and waking up in the night, and I could see all this energy. They would look like white streams of energy flowing into his heart and into his body. And there was a man standing by the bed, and it was my grandfather. My grandfather was a doctor and has, passed away a long time ago. And he said, "We got him. We got him." And I knew he was going to be okay. I remember crying as I saw my grandfather and saw that light coming into his heart and his heart space. And I kid you not, within 10 days, he was walking out of the hospital pain free, medicine free, no side effects. The doctors were dumbfounded. They're like, this is completely unheard of and unusual. He didn't have hearing loss, he didn't have lung issue, like nothing. It was wild, and I knew 100%. I said, it's the healing energy. My mom was coming every day. She's a spiritual healer. She was giving him healing and Reiki. And we had so many people praying for him. And it works. Healing and the power of prayer works. I saw it with my own eyes. I can see energy. That was the only thing I could explain. Like, it's wild. So whenever there's a crisis, I always enact a prayer chain. If I am on your prayer chain, I will be sending healing, and the way that everyone does it is in their own way, but they know what to do. So there's no details needed. Everyone's just like on it. Those are all the responses: on it, done. And then there was the occasional check in a couple of days. How are things going? Are we still sending? Are we still on it? So that prayer and the power of prayer is so, so important. So if you can send prayers to someone in your life, do it. It does matter. We send healing, we send energy, and it does make a difference. So, as we waited for the ambulance and all of that to work itself out, we then ended up finally getting a transport to the other hospital, and I had to drive my car. And in as I was driving, I was imagining the best case scenario, because they had already told me what were some of the options in terms of what was going to happen. And so I was imagining the best case scenarios. And even when I was checking in with family and letting them know what was happening, I was saying, here are the options and here's what I'm hoping for. Here's what I'm holding in my heart. I'm going to ask you to hold this scenario in your heart too. And so that's tool number 5, which is manifestation, because we really can make things happen as we focus our brain and our energy on the outcome we desire. So we want to be prepared for the worst outcome, but we always want to hold the highest and best outcome in our heart, because that is what we desire. And if it's desired for you, it's destined for you. I 100% believe that to be true. So I was holding the best case scenario in my heart. I was like, this is going to happen. This is going to be, I know we're going to get an amazing surgeon. I know we're going to get an amazing team of people. It's all going to work out. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it. So that was the tool number 5, was manifestation. And then as we got to the hospital, I was, waiting and waiting and waiting. It's a waiting game for things. I had to go when the surgery was happening and come back. And I looked up the astrology, which was tool number 6. And the astrology was like, you can't make this stuff up, honest to God. Like, in health astrology, so there's a branch of astrology called medical astrology. And in medical astrology, there's signatures in things in charts, but you have to be looking for it. And again, like, I'm not always looking up charts of my loved ones and just, what's happening, what's going to happen for the, time ahead. Normally, when there's a crisis, then I'll look at all this stuff up and go, okay, I see that. And I kid you not, the medical condition that this person had, the energy signature of the chart was exactly for this medical issue. Like, you can make this stuff up. And so I saw that in their chart. And I was like, okay, well, obviously they're meant to be having this surgery now. And then I was looking at my chart, and my chart has 7 planets transiting. Like, it's very rare that they're transiting so close together that they're going to be all within one house. So in astrology, for those of you who don't know what astrology is, it's the study of energy that comes onto this planet. That's literally it. It is the study of the stars as their transits affect our charts ourselves. So when you are born into, as you take your first breath, the energy streaming onto this planet is encapsulated in your body and becomes your energy signature, your frequency. And we can see that through your natal chart in astrology. So that energy signature is yours. And as you're walking along your path, as you're growing up, you're intersecting people with other energies that have similar or dissonant energy fields, right? So we can look at that in astrology, and that is called synastry astrology, where we look at compatibility of two things. So compatibility of two partners, a company that you're working for, your parents, children with their, with each other. We can look at compatibility of energy signatures. So astrology really is just the study of energy flowing onto this planet. And it is like the weather. So there are certain times that it's going to look very favorable for your energy, and other times that you're going to be going through transitions and growth, right? There's no such thing as a bad aspect or a bad chart. You just have energy, like it's just neutral, right? So, of course, if you're going about to have surgery, it should probably not show that you're going to win the lottery. Like it's actually accurate. It's wild how accurate it is. So, obviously showed that they were, supposed to have a flare up. And for me, I had 7 planets in my home house. So in the chart, you have 12 houses of your astrology. So 12 pieces of the pie. And each house rules an area of your life. So the first house is your house, it's called your rising sign. And that is the way the world sees you and the way that you present into the world. So it's your kind of the way you look, it's the way that your kind of identity is seen by the world itself. Your sun sign is the way you feel about yourself, but your rising sign is the way the world sees you. So sometimes those things are similar and sometimes they're not, right? So that's a little bit of astrology stuff. I'll definitely do another podcast on astrology for those who are interested. But the 4th house in astrology is at the very bottom of your chart, and it is your innermost workings, your home, family, nurturing, inner foundations, and your mothering. So your mother, your mothering, the women figures in your life, all are kind of contained within that 4th house of home. So I had 7 planets. So 7 out of 10, by the way. We look at 10 planets and sort of 2 points. And all 7 planets, nodes were also in there as well. So it's wild. I mean, I wasn't supposed to travel 100%. Had I seen that, and would I have told the person that I couldn't be in their conference last week? No, because I really wanted to go to that conference. And I was, I had to reschedule a lot of clients. I had to say to withdraw from an opportunity because I mean, obviously, my family needed me the most, and family is my core value, number one value. So, looking at the astrology, it was very obvious. Number one, I wasn't supposed to travel. And when I saw that, I sent an email to the event organizer and said, I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to withdraw. And they were so wonderful about it and so understanding. Everyone was really, really understanding. And in fact, many were sending healing, sending gifts, sending things to help me out. It's been just wonderful to be so supported. So, in that, that's the 6 spiritual tools. And the astrology piece, it was interesting because even had I'm in the human experience with you all. It's not like I'm above anything. I was sad that I had to withdraw from that conference. I was sad to reschedule those 7 clients because some of them are on some amazing journeys where they are really like up leveling in their life now. And I was excited to hear updates. And then I also had to withdraw from a charcuterie experience with my boss. Like, if my love language is charcuterie, it's meat, it's food, it's cheese. I just love all that so much. So, it was really hard and really sad to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't attend any of these things anymore. And here's why. And couple of blessings came out of it. One is that every single one of them was so gracious and so happy to reschedule, sending love, sending healing. My thoughts and prayers are with you, which was just wonderful. I would never ask that of my clients, but they did send it. And then the second part of it was I realized what a blessing I have for a life. There was a time when I wished for my life to be like this. I was working in corporate. I was working for a company that really couldn't give a crap about me. And I was just a number, number on the list. Um I'm making people money. That's something I do. It felt like a family for a time, but I was always longing to make a difference in the world, to do something that really was in alignment with my gifts and talents. And here I am living this life now. I loved my life. I loved the week. I was so excited to have this kick-ass week. And then I had to reschedule everything. And so, the lesson was it's not meant for me yet, the speaking engagement. And hopefully she'll do another conference and I'll get to go to the next one next year. But there's is very, it was just wonderful to allow those blessings to come to my vision, I guess, to be able to see that I am living life that's so, number one, supported, number two, aligned, and number three, purposeful. It just made me so happy. I actually cried happy tears in the hospital as I was sending emails and rescheduling all of these wonderful clients. And because I had also known in the astrology that this year I was going into a 12th house perfection year. So, this is an ancient astrology technique where you go through 12 cycles, 12 years cycles. So, at the 0 to 1 mark, you're in the first house, then 1 to 2 mark, you're in the second house, 3 to 4, you're in the third house. So, when we look around the wheel, as you get older, you will have one house will be your kind of prominent house each year of your life, and those will be the themes. So I knew after I had my last birthday that I was going into a 12th house perfection year. And the 12th house is endings, transcendence, transformation, healing. It can be hidden enemies can be in there, which is so wild. I always laugh when they're like hidden enemies in the 12th house. I'm like, all right. So that's a house where you're inherently not meant to be very public facing. You're not meant to be out in the world. You're really ending things off, releasing, kind of like you're fertilizing the soil and you're getting ready for the new implantation, the new seeds that are going to be planted as I hit my next birthday, which is going to be September of this year. So I've not wanted to travel. Like, if you know anything about my schedule, I was traveling 6 times last year. 4 of those were international flights. All of those were on points too. I love travel hacking. Again, that's probably a podcast for another time. And this year, I have a very dear friend that's like, we should go traveling. We should go here. We should go there. And I'm like, not until after my birthday, maybe. Maybe. I just want to stay home. I knew I wanted to stay home. Last year was my year of yes. This year was my year of no. And it really aligned with my 12th house perfection year. I knew that, as from an astrological point of view, that this was going to be a year where I'm going truly within and really just allowing what's coming to the surface and what the universe is showing me to be my guiding light for the next stages of my being, right? When I my next birthday of now I'm going to be coming out into the world with a new identity. It's going to be a rebirthing, which is it's a big year. Like, you don't have a 1 year in terms of the astrology perfection year, but it's actually a 1 year in my numerology as well, which is wild that those things just come together. It just always blows my mind when all these synchronicities and all these tools and modalities come together. It's all on the same timing. Nothing goes against each other, right? This is why I love spirituality so much. It's almost like a science, because there is things to know about it. You have to understand how things work. So these 6 tools really helped me to navigate all of this crisis and has really been helping me navigate this year. I didn't once feel overwhelmed. I didn't once feel like I was holding the bag by myself. I didn't once feel like I was uncertain or scared about what was to come. There was a moment when my person was being taken into surgery where I cried and I said, "You better come back to me." And then this is going to be sort of a bonus tool, because in that moment, a spirit came forward who is our family member and said, "Don't worry, I'm bringing them back to you." So I knew, because I know them, and their word is their honor, is that they were going to bring my person back to me. So That's mediumship. So that's tool number 7. And not everyone is a medium. We all have the ability to feel our own loved ones in spirit, but there are only a few that have the soul quality to see the spirits of other people's loved ones. So, can you feel your own loved ones? For sure. It can block that as grief too. So, again, that's probably a podcast for another time. So many things to talk about, so little time. So, the 6 spiritual tools that I used to get me through my family emergency were meditation, manifestation, group healing, astrology, tarot, and intuition and psychic. And then the bonus one was meditation, or sorry, mediumship. So, that is the story. And how can you use some of these tools to help you when you're moving through crisis or when there's uncertainty or you're feeling disconnected? Because you're never disconnected, it's an illusion. You're always connected. You just have either forgotten about it or have pushed it away or it feels unsafe. And so how can you make that more safe? Because my connection to spirit, to all of the people that were sending me healing, I could feel it. I could feel the love coming in. And everybody I met in the hospital, I enrolled them as well. I would compliment them. I could see into their auric field and who they were and which ones I wanted around my person, which ones I didn't, because there are some that just, having a rough day, for sure. Go have your rough day somewhere else. I don't need you here. And I'm not somebody who's quiet and people pleasy in situations like that. I will ask for what's needed and I won't stop. But I also can manage the situation. So even the surgeon, I was asking some questions and I could tell you she was getting a little annoyed with me. And I was able to use my diplomacy and my coaching skills to say, thank you so much for being patient with me because this person really matters to me. And I really want to know how I can support them after the surgery. And she softened, right? I always go for that win-win. I'm not going to be combative in a situation like that, even though I could tell she was annoyed with me, is that I knew what I wanted. And I'm not going to stop until I get the outcome I desire. I'm not going to be pulled into someone else's story of a bad day or annoyance or whatever, or if she thinks that I'm not smart or whatever whatever it was for her. I know she's in a caring profession. So I really spoke to her heart in that too. So then I put that under the intuition bucket as well as a spiritual tool, but I also use my coaching skills there too. So I do believe a win-win is possible in every situation. So thank you for being here. I hope the things that I've learned and how I navigated this situation help you as you navigate things that are going to come up for you. This is a year where there's a lot of shifts, a lot of transformations happening, a lot of life lessons coming to the surface. So you are going to have something that's going to happen this year that is also going to throw you for a loop. I don't wish that on you, but I just know that it's true because everyone is going through something. It's very rare you have a year where you're like, nothing happened, everything was so great, right? There's always going to be little things. And if you can surf the waves, you can understand you're so supported. You can call in your spirit guides, slow down your breathing, be aware of how you're feeling, set your intention. Where do you want the energy to go? What is the outcome you desire? Look into this astrology. If you don't understand astrology, that's okay. You can even just Google the astrology for the day. Pull some cards for yourself. If it's not the tarot, you can use oracle cards, and then really let your intuition be like, okay, everything's going to be okay. Calling in my spirit team to support me, calling in my prayer chain, right? Calling in healers to help with this because you don't have to do it alone. So, wishing you the best, most supported week ahead. I'm so glad you're here and I can't wait to share with you so many more things on the upcoming podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legalese that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.